Welcome back to Sci-Fi Realities, y'all. This is episode 3, and I'm super excited. This is the podcast that reads like science fiction, but unfortunately, it is all too real. I'm your semi-reliable host, Sophia, and I'm in no way qualified to talk about any of this stuff, but I am absolutely committed to spiraling through it with you all. And today, we're going to talk about asteroids, those space rocks that could possibly, maybe hypothetically, end civilization one day, just like our good old friends, the dinosaurs. You know the story, giant rock, no warning, mass extinction, T-Rex goes down without a fight. So yeah, but although not today, it's not going to happen today. Thankfully, it's still worth asking, what if? But before we get into that, I want to start with something that sounds completely made up, but is it? So the UK, our friends across the pond, are dabbling just a little at playing God. In recent news, the UK is funding outdoor experiments to figure out how to dim the sun. You heard it right. This is exactly the kind of off the wall, straight from fantasy idea that fuels conspiracy theories. And honestly, I had to double and triple check this wasn't a headline from like a fringe Reddit thread or an old chemtrails Facebook post. This is right in line with the weather modification conspiracy theory that states the government is secretly using advanced tech to manipulate the weather. But no, this is not that. This is not sci fi. It's not satire. It's not some crazy post on Reddit or Facebook. This is a real plan backed by the UK's Advanced Research and Invention Agency, ARIA, a low profile, high budget government agency. It's our version of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And anytime you hear like a low profile, high budget government agency is cooking up some plans, it gets me a little nervous, just a little. So, the term for this obviously not insane dim the sun idea is solar engineering, and the price tag is 75 million pounds. So, these real world experiments will include spraying reflective particles into the atmosphere like a giant can of sky glitter, brightening clouds to bounce back light into space. We have the science to think through this? That's pretty wild. Thickening polar ice with strategic water sprays, and finally, launching a literal space umbrella to cast Earth in a shadow. All of this is being tested because we're losing the climate war. Scientists are terrified we're too late to prevent the worst case scenarios that we've always talked about: the melting ice caps, collapsing ecosystems, cities turned into slow cookers. This is the climate version of emergency surgery. It is super high risk, but maybe the only option left. But do we not have other options? Like seriously? Like this whole thing feels like it was cooked up by a first grader. Like Aria went into the classroom and asked, "Class, how can we fight climate change?" And that one kid, probably named Damien, shoots his hand up and says, "What if we just put Earth in a little bit of shade?" Duh. And the class gasps like he's a genius. Aria offers him a job, and now here we are, actually trying to fund it. But jokes aside, this does seem a bit dramatic, like super scary scenario. We are messing with things we shouldn't be. We're messing with the actual sunlight. Like, I'm not a science hater, but when it comes to like messing with the natural, personally, I don't think these end well. And reading about this plan, it's like watching a movie where you already know the plot and you see the exact scene where everything goes to hell and you're sitting there yelling at the screen like a lunatic. No, don't do that. Don't press the button. But we all know how that goes because the character will indeed press that button anyway and then cue the ice age. Now, I'm not saying the UK is going to accidentally trigger a new ice age. I'm not saying that at all. I may be thinking it, but I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that we've seen this movie, we've read the book, maybe the comic book. Snowpiercer tells us exactly how this might end up. In that movie, humanity tried to cool the planet by launching a climate fixing chemical into the sky, similar to that giant can of glitter that's on this table for this initiative. And instead of fixing anything, it froze the whole world. And yet, here we are testing these real world versions of fictional disaster plots because we can't stop burning fossil fuels. There's also the ethics of this. There's always the ethics. And I feel like ethics does not play a bigger role when we're thinking through these plans. When it comes to advancements, yes, we've benefited greatly, but there are usually casualties. There are usually winners and there are usually losers before things even out. And sometimes they don't even out. The one thing I want to ask is why does the UK get to make the decision that they're going to dim the sun? This seems like a decision that should involve more nations, way more nations. Maybe there are, and I just haven't read into this deeply enough. So maybe there is something I am missing here. Maybe there are other nations who are involved. And I hope it's not just nations like UK, US, Germany, and those power nations who seem to sort of make these decisions that have global impacts, especially on the smaller players who don't have the resources. And usually those smaller players end up losing out a lot. So, do we get a future where we ration sunlight, which to me would seem wild, but the way things are going, not far fetched? I can see myself in the future surrounded by my grandkids, and I'm telling them, children, children, gather around. It's story time. Now, please pay attention. Hey, Damien the third, especially you, pay attention, okay? Now, back in my day, there used to be this thing called sunlight, and it was warm and it lit up the earth. It lasts for hours. There were blue skies and beach days. It was just so glorious. And they'll just look at me like I'm this wacko. Meanwhile, they're powering up vitamin D lands because that's the future we've given them. To me, this is a bit much, y'all. I'm not a scientist, so what do I know? Not a whole lot. At this point, Earth is just fed up with us. She's watched us do all the things. She's watched us overfish the oceans. She's watched us bulldoze forests, suck out oil out of every crevice available, melt glaciers for sport, built entire cities on top of fault lines. She's probably like, "You idiots." And now we're out here messing with the sun. She's so done. She is so done. And I wouldn't be surprised if she personally requested an asteroid strike, like filed a cosmic complaint and said, yo, they got to go. They ain't got to go home, but they needs to leave here. And I don't care how, but it has to happen. Ooh, scary stuff, y'all. But now this brings me to today's main story. Question for the group. What would happen if an asteroid slammed into Earth on July 12th, 2038? I know that's a very specific date. So here's the setup. Recently, NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, got together for something called the Planetary Defense Interagency Tabletop Exercise. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Which, if you're wondering, is exactly as serious as it sounds. It's like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. But instead of a dungeon, it's Earth. And instead of a dragon, it's a giant space rock with a 72% chance of impact. Also, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, so that analogy might be a little off. I'm just making assumptions. But anyway, back to that amount, 72% chance of impact, as in find some friends with a bunker. That should be top priority. Maybe panic bake some bread, hoard all the toilet paper, and confess to stuff no one asked about. In this planetary defense interagency tabletop exercise, aka simulation, our asteroid is somewhere between 80 and 800 meters wide, which is a useless range. It's like saying the storm could bring anywhere between a light drizzle and the second great flood. I can't plan for that. No one can. But to make the simulation more interesting, the rock goes behind the sun for 7 months, so we can't track it during that time. Personally, I'm suspicious as hell in giving NASA and FEMA and this whole simulation a side eye because we've had some real close calls lately. Earlier this year, an actual asteroid named 2024 YR4, a near Earth object or NEO, was flagged as the riskiest asteroid on record at the time. It is the only one in over a decade to even make it above a level 1. Most asteroids don't even get rated, but this one definitely did. It scored a 3 on the Torino scale, which is like the Richter scale for cosmic doom. At one point, they said it had a 3.1% chance of hitting Earth in 2032. And yes, that does sound small, but when the stakes are our planet explodes, that's a little too high for my taste. Maybe your risk tolerance is higher, but personally, I prefer my extinction odds at like 0 or maybe even the negative range. But lucky us, after a few days, NASA and the ESA, the European Space Agency, they did some math, they stared at the sky, they fiddled with some stuff, and we're like, oh, never mind, false alarm. The chance of this hitting Earth is just a minor 0.00 1%. We're fine. I mean, the moon now is a 1.7% chance, but whatever. We don't care about the moon. We only care about the earth, and the earth is good. So we're good. And I was like, oh, perfect. Great. Sigh of relief. When I read this, I was like, oh, I kind of went around on the socials. I'm not super big on socials, but I did. I kind of, I tried to read about it, see, what people were saying. And not a whole lot. I don't think people even blinked at the news. I didn't see any toilet paper shortages. And that's usually how I know that we're losing our collective minds. Now, before 2024 YR4, there was Apophis. That one was spotted back in 2004. It hit a 4 out of 10 on the danger scale. So technically, this was a bigger deal than YR4. People were actually freaking out about Apophis, which makes sense because 2004 was a simpler time. We had the emotional bandwidth to freak out. Now we're all just desensitized. We've lived through so many once in a lifetime events that the bar for panic is just way too high. It's like, unless this asteroid is live streaming itself with a personalized countdown, we don't really care. We're just going to bypass it, okay? Because we have better things to do. We're going to watch that woman make soup on TikTok. This is where we are. This is where I'm at. But like YR4, the risk for Apophis was downgraded. It moved to the do not panic bin. It's still coming close in 2029, but according to NASA, y'all, don't worry. We got this. We're watching, all right? Also, side note, because it's been annoying me each time I've said the name 2024 YR4. Like, who is naming these things? Who? It sounds like a printer model, and technically it kind of is, at least in naming logic. So the name for this, it literally means it was the 114th asteroid discovered in the second half of December 2024. And Apophis is the ancient Egyptian god of chaos, darkness, and destruction. But seriously, like, next time, just hold a contest and we're good. Gather some first graders, tell them to spit out some names, and we can go from there. So now we've had Apophis and 2024 YR4 pop up on our radar. The question I want to ask is this really just a simulation, NASA? Like, is it, or are we just tiptoeing into soft disclosure territory? You give the public a little drip. This is only pretend, y'all. Only pretend. It's a simulation. That's it. But quietly, you're writing up the worst case contingency plans in the back room. Also, I forgot to mention Wire 4 is totally dark until 2028. It's just floating around, unobservable, unbothered, possibly plotting. Maybe it's recruiting other asteroids. We don't know. So in our simulation with this giant rock that has a 72% chance of impact, what is the plan? Like, what have they laid out for us as this is what we plan to do? Well, according to FEMA, the first thing we'll do is wait. That's it. We're just going to wait because, as we mentioned earlier, similar to 2024 YR4, our simulation asteroid will also be unobservable for a period of time, like 7 months, just hiding behind the sun. So we can't get any data at that time. So hence, we'll have to wait. Then we can send a $400 million flyby mission to check it out. Hey, asteroids, Earth here. Are you coming for us? Will there be impact? Like, what's your deal? Can you tell us anything at all? But it's an asteroid, possibly held by an angry Mother Earth, so it will tell us absolutely nothing. Our next option, maybe, we send a $1 billion DART 2.0 to shove the rock out of the way. You might remember DART. I'm pretty sure you don't. I sure didn't. It's that mission where NASA crashed a vending machine-sized spacecraft into an asteroid moonlet in 2022. NASA themselves compared it to crashing a golf court into the Great Pyramid at 15,000 miles per hour. DART worked, which surprised every single person. Scientists gave it a 10% chance of success, which doesn't make me feel good that one of our plans includes something that wasn't designed to succeed, and it surprised everyone when it did succeed. It was a cosmic Hail Mary, which hit. I don't want any cosmic Hail Marys. I want more than a 10% chance of success. 50 might be nice. But another option, hear me out. I think we can do the movie version of this. We could train a squad of astronauts for a risky impact mission. We can cast the hottest Hollywood star as the lead. I'm thinking like Michael B. Jordan, Adam Driver. I don't know. I'm not very current on who's in, but someone with like big save the world energy. Maybe not Adam Driver. I think he was a villain in Star Wars or something, right? But anyway, toss in a dramatic countdown, some last minute launch, and a slow motion walk towards the rocket. you could pan out for that view. And there you have it. It's Oscar bait and planetary defense. I like it. I think we have a winner, but it definitely wouldn't be chosen. And who knows about DART 2.0, because those behind the simulation admitted that Congress probably would not fund any asteroid response until we're absolutely sure that we're doomed, because budgets, which is insane. The trillions we spend on the military won't mean much if there's no country or any countries left to defend. Oh, what's that? A global extinction? Sorry, we're still trying to find an extra trillion for the DoD on top of the trillion they already receive and don't even report out on. So world-ending asteroid will have to wait to the last possible moment, at which point I think they'll have no choice but to do my movie plan. That's where we'll be at. Congress aside, this will require international cooperation, and that's not looking so great. We have proxy wars, we have actual wars, we have trade wars, we have all the wars. But sure, let's team up and solve an extinction level event. And then because it's 2025, we've got all these private companies in the mix. You have SpaceX, you have Blue Origin. Who's going to launch a solution? And what is it going to cost us? Because we all know Bezos and Musk, they're not doing this for free. So here's where we're at. We've had 2 real asteroid scares. We've now got a full-blown simulation for a hypothetical asteroid that might hit us in 2038. Our best plan is to wait, guess, and then maybe try to punch the rock with another space Roomba. And the people funding all this might not take action until it's too late, and they also don't play nice with other countries. So this all sounds delightful. No plans, no protocols, no consensus. So, yeah. But I'll also admit that this is one of those impossible problems to plan and solve for. You're talking about trying to predict the exact behavior of a giant rock hurtling through space years in advance based on limited data and a whole lot of assumptions. So I get it. I get the impossibility of it all. So I guess just keep chipping away at this plan for the so-called what if scenario, even if that plan looks more like educated guessing with a sprinkle of optimism. It's really all that we have right now. So I'll take it. So should we be worried about this July 12th, 2038 simulation that feels like soft disclosure? Probably not, since we first have to worry about Apophis in 2029 and 2024 YR in 2032. That's really it for our main story. But before I let you go prep your asteroid survival bunker, here's a totally unrelated, maybe related, slightly ridiculous thought. I recently read that the red planet, Mars, is inhabited. Not by us, but by robots. I knew we had stuff up there, but I never thought about it in the sense that Mars is the only other planet in our solar system with a functioning population, even if that population is non-human. As of now, 6 rovers have successfully landed on Mars. 5 of them, Sojourner, Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, Perseverance, those were all built by NASA. Then there's Zhurong, sorry if I'm butchering that, which was launched by China's space agency in 2021. I may be wrong, but I think Curiosity and Perseverance are the only 2 functioning on the ground at the moment. And it's not just these rovers. Mars has its own orbiting camera crew. NASA, ESA, even China have satellites circling the place 24/7, snapping high-res selfies. And we can't forget Ingenuity, the tiny helicopter that could. It came with Perseverance, and it made about 72 flights before retiring. Like a legend, I might add. Fun fact, long before all of this, the Soviet Union beat everyone to the punch. They sent robotic landers Mars 2 and Mars 3 in the 70s. Mars 2 crash landed, sad, but Mars 3 actually became the first spacecraft to land on Mars, and it transmitted data back for a whole 14.5 seconds. That's iconic behavior. So here on Earth, we are running asteroid drills for a rock that might hit us in 2038 or sooner. Meanwhile, Mars is just there minding its business and quietly becoming a full-on robot homeland. Like if Earth goes full-on asteroid collision mode, what happens to these Martian robots? Do they keep going? Do they keep recording? Do they keep digging for samples? Or do they become the last surviving artifacts of human existence? It's even possible some alien civilization lands on Mars and finds Perseverance, who's like, would you like to see some pictures of some rocks? Or here's a rock I found in 2025 and some sand. It looks like every other rock on this godforsaken planet I've been abandoned on. I don't think Perseverance will be that aggressive, but who knows? Or maybe somehow humans figure out a way to evade the asteroid and they go to Mars because these robots have made it a habitable place, and they meet said robots who have now become sentient. Probably similar to the Kalons on the show The Orville, although hopefully not, because the Kalons were not fans of humans for good reasons. So we might be running from one disaster to another. So yeah, we might not survive the next asteroid, but Mars and its robots, I'm sure we'll be fine. Anyway, thanks for spiraling with me today. If you like this episode, hit subscribe, scream into the void, or just look up at the sky and whisper, please don't. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and maybe start saving up for your own asteroid bunker.